And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to do a quick conference finals preview since the game is going to be happening tonight at 8 o'clock. Well, the games are going to start tonight at 8 o'clock. And then there are obviously every other day there's going to be game, so today is going to be the Boston Celtics, and tomorrow is going to be the Dallas Mavericks, and the next day is going to be the Boston Celtics, and the next day it's going to be the Dallas Mavericks, and so on and so forth. You guys get the idea. Apart from when there's most likely going to be a break, I believe. Let me just make sure that I'm right. Nope, I lied. There is not going to be a break. It seems like every single one of these games is going to keep going back to back to back to back to back to back to back every single time. So we're going to be seeing a playoff game every single night, and it's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait. Every single one of these games is going to happen during prime time, so 8 o'clock, 8:30, something of that nature. It's going to be very, very fun. Can't wait to watch these series, and I can't wait for the Boston Celtics to hand the Pacers the belt in this series. I am not joking when I say this. I'm going to turn into the biggest Boston Celtics fan throughout the entirety of this playoff series simply because the Pacers deserve to get eliminated immediately. They do not. What they did to my New York Knicks, what they did to those Knicks is a crime. It was murder. It was abuse. It was a crime. They do not deserve to be in that position whatsoever. Get them out of here, Boston. Please. Please. So, with all the bias aside, I personally think, with the way that the Boston Celtics have been playing in the playoffs, I wouldn't surprise if it's just a repeat of everything that we've seen. So, they win game one, then in the next game, in game two, they lose by a lot, and now the series is tied, but then they go ahead and win the last three games. So far, that's been the story for the playoffs, at least in Boston's case, every single time. Against the Miami Heat, against the Cavs, the exact same story. And with this Pacers team, I really they fit the bill. The Pacers completely fit the bill to be able to do that exact same thing, because the Pacers offense, very, very, very elite. And I would not be surprised if in game two they're able to bounce back and win after losing in game one. If that does happen, again, I could totally be wrong, because so far all my takes this year in the postseason, they've been utterly wrong in every single way whatsoever. In every single way they've been wrong. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong in this take as well, but I really, really hope that I'm not. If this Celtics team is as good as the hype is around the team, I think that the Celtics are going to come out winning this series, because they have the high-powered offense as well as a very dominant defense. Drew Holiday and Derek White at the 1 and the 2. Then you have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are also very good two-way players in their own right, as well as the possibility of getting Kristaps Porzingis back for the series, who's just he's ridiculously tall, and being tall just immediately makes you a very difficult defender to score on due to all the blocks that you can get, especially with the fact that he is a center in the NBA and a very not a very, how do I put this? He's not he's not underrated, I'd say, but then again, he's not that overrated either. He used to be a lot better on the Knicks, but now he's sort of subjugated to that role player, especially since, being on the Mavericks. But he's solid. I guess you could say he gets some of the respect he deserves, pretty solid. But as a team, their defense and their offense is elite, and their offense could be on par with the Pacers, especially since they shoot a lot of three-pointers. The Celtics team, they live and die by the three. But I think the biggest difference and the biggest X factor for this team against the Pacers is going to be their defense. And the Celtics, they absolutely cannot let up on the defensive side of the ball. They absolutely cannot. They have all the perimeter players that they could possibly ask for. All they have to do is put enough effort on the defense to slow the Pacers down just a little bit, and then the offense will come. They have to match their pacing, and they also have to match their pacing on the defense. Like, they have to get back on defense as quickly as possible. And the best part about it is that this team is a team that could switch on and off the ball very, very easily. Like, these guys know how to handle switches. These guys know how to play help defense. They know how to get steals. They're an incredibly competent team defensively. And they're going to need every single ounce of defense they could possibly get, every single effort on defense they can get to stop this Pacers team. I want this Pacers team in jail. I want them strapped. I want them clamped up in this postseason. And this Celtics, they can do that. They can 100% do that against this team. And not to mention, the rotations that they have are also slightly better than the Knicks. Just slightly. Not entirely better, but just slightly. Just because, the Knicks, they play their starters for 40-some minutes, and that takes a toll on their stamina, which thus takes a toll on the energy that they have defensively. So the fact that the Pacers are able to have a pretty decent rotation means that a lot of these players are still going to have enough stamina to be able to play both offense and defense. Now that's game one. Now the next game is the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. This is one of those series where I actually have no idea which team is going to win. It could honestly go either way, but I feel like the Timberwolves have a much better chance just because of the Timberwolves and their defense. They were able to hold Jokic and Jamal Murray to a relatively inefficient shooting performance in Game 7. And they've shown that they've been able to adjust to any kind of offense that the Nuggets were throwing at them. So, with that in mind, I feel like their defense is going to be just enough to be able to weasel their way out of this series. I mean, obviously, it's going to be very, very difficult to guard Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. But Anthony Edwards, he's also a pretty competent defender, while at the same time having other competent defenders on his side, especially Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid, be able to impact the team in a certain way. Now, the only problem is Luka, and that's really the X factor, because Luka or Kyrie Irving, they could go off on any given night. And if Anthony Edwards is going to check Kyrie, because Anthony Edwards, he did say he was going to, guard Kyrie. If he's guarding Kyrie, who's going to guard Luka? And if Anthony Edwards is going to guard Luka, who's going to guard Kyrie? It's very difficult for me to really understand or to scale exactly who's going to win in this series. And I mean, Luka could he could find his shot. He hasn't even been playing very well in this postseason, or at least let me rephrase that. Luka's been playing very well in this postseason, just not as good as we're used to seeing him play. Meaning, there is a possibility that he has a lot more left in that tank, and he can find his shot, he can find his offense rolling, and if he gets rolling, there's nothing that can really stop him. I mean, we've seen him cook Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Only just now was he able to win against the Clippers, but before, he was absolutely, he was getting buckets on them. So, I can't really say that having a defender on Luka is going to slow him down, because he had Kawhi and Paul George, and he wasn't getting slowed down. It was really the team that was getting slowed down. So, it could really be a toss-up in this series, in my personal opinion. I have this series going to 7 games. In all honesty, I think this is going to 7 games, but on the Celtics side, it's going to go to 6, or maybe even 5. I do not see that series going to 7 games. The Celtics, they need to hand the belt to the Pacers immediately. But that's all I have to say about this 4th segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the 5th segment. Since we were talking about the Denver Nuggets, I might as well go ahead and talk about their chances on running it back. And that's going to be the 5th segment and my opinions on that. And I'll be right back after this short break, so stay tuned.